gonna start.
Yeah, let's start.
Okay, let's start.
What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, my name is Marjolein. I am from the Netherlands, currently based in Nagasaki, Japan. And because my parents gave me a name that's not very internationally easy, I like to shorten it to Mar.
Okay, Mar.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, Mar. What is your connection to tea?
I think that's very hard to put in a few simple sentences. So currently I am on 1.5 years into working with tea tourism and tea sales here in Nagasaki. And I would say it's my first proper job working with tea. I feel everything in my life is tea. Everything connects to tea. And I'm very happy about that. I'm happy to make it even more so. But yeah, I feel it goes very deep. There's a lot of things that connected to tea before I realized they connected to tea. Or I've made things connect through tea. Maybe that sounds very cryptic.
Okay, well, a few questions are jumping up at me that I'd like to ask. But I guess let's turn time back a little bit. When did you start enjoying tea and how were you first introduced to tea?
So many people have this amazing epiphany story where they drink one cup of tea and the world opens up, one tea big bang moment. For me, I often like to use a quote, I think it's from Jane Austen, something along the lines of, I was in the midst of it before I realized I had begun.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So I grew up in different countries and different cultures, including India and Zimbabwe, southern Africa. And there is tea in these countries. I have seen some tea in the background of my childhood. It wasn't like a very extremely important memory, but there is a little bit there in the background. Combined with that, my mother always used to brew tea at home. So tea is a very comfort, homely feeling. Coming back, when we moved back to the Netherlands, coming back from school, in high school, we would sit down and have tea around, the living room table, talk about our day, have some, mum's sliced fruit, or some baked goods. So that very homely feeling is very much part of my affinity for tea. So that was there before I even realized that was a thing. And then growing up in different cultures where tea is so much part of hospitality, traveling. So I moved back with my mother when I was 13, but my father kept working abroad. So we would visit him once a year to wherever he was stationed. So there are different countries where I visited him where I really felt that hospitality through tea. This is one moment where I was visiting Jordan and I was in Petra visiting the ancient ruins. And I had one of the local, a young guy, maybe same age as me, so early 20s, with his donkey that was trying to, get me to take a free air-conditioned ride or something. Well, not free, but air-conditioned ride on this donkey, that I was like, no, I don't want. I just want to explore and just go around. And he just kept following me. I was a little bit annoyed at this guy. I was just taking side paths and he followed me until at some point we came to this cliff wall, where with a bit of a, how do you call that?
Ledge.
A ledge, where there was this hewn out hole for collecting water, spring water. And he set up there and started boiling some water and he was like, do you want some tea? And immediately my annoyance evaporated. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And it will take a while. And I said, okay. And I just dumped my bag with him and went exploring. And we just had this amazing connection through tea. Talking actually about politics and culture and the completely unexpected, and through that connection of tea. So that was even before my journey with tea really started, but those moments really add to why I like tea so much. Yeah.
Soka. That's a pretty wild story though. You say you don't have a moment, but it's a pretty cool moment with tea.
But there are maybe this one is my most impactful memory, right. But there are moments where just that hospitality, that kindness of people through basically the gift of giving you tea and sharing tea together, that for me, the most important thing about tea is that shared moment. I probably won't remember the flavor of what I have drunk 5 years ago, but I usually remember the encounter and the person who I shared the tea with.
Tea is such a connecting factor for everybody across cultures and languages, and it's one of the things that I really love about tea as well, is that you can connect with so many people around the world so easily through tea.
Right.
It's like the common link between everyone.
I agree.
So, I mean, talking of tea, you're very kindly brewing a tea for us.
Yep.
At the moment, do you want to introduce what you're brewing?
So I'm based in Japan.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people then automatically assume that my favorite tea is Japanese. So maybe it is also my mom used to make either Indian teas or lapsang souchong, that kind of smoked black tea flavor. But I like it a little bit sweeter, so kind of like unsmoked black teas. Chinese black teas, like dark roasted oolongs, that kind of comfort, warm hug feeling is what I really like. So, I mean, when I find that in Japanese teas, I do also adore those teas as well. I have a little sample. We're going to brew the whole sample. And it's a Chinese black tea, Guifei Hongcha from Yunnan, so bug-bitten. And it was very kindly given to me by one of the guys at one of my favorite tea shops in Prague, where I feel a very strong connection with them. So because it was given to me, I want to share it, not just with myself, but with someone I like.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, it's funny you should be brewing this particular tea, and I don't know whether this is an intentional thing on your part, but Yunnan black tea is one of my favorite teas, and one of the teas that got me to finally decide that I needed to pursue tea for the long term. So it's quite the coincidence, but I'm very excited to... Oh, let me have a little smell. This is a beautiful Gai one, by the way.
It is. It's from Hoshinomura.
Wow.
In Yame. So I might have put
That's like
a little bit much leaf into the Gai one. But I think we can handle that.
I think we can do it. It looks very delicious. No, I'm very excited. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you typically brew a lot of non-Japanese day-to-day, non-Japanese teas day-to-day, or?
It varies. I mean, I also have a huge collection of Japanese black teas. I tend to, for my comfort, go towards black teas a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, I drink a lot of green tea, and especially in the summer, I drink a lot of green tea, a lot of cold brew green teas. But now that it's winter and it's cold, I'm a little bit off my green tea game.
I think that's understandable.
Yeah.
I do there was, for a little bit of context for people listening, we're currently at Ikidoki Tea, and that's based in Higashi Sonagi, which is a town in Nagasaki on Kyushu Island. And Marjolein with Ikidoki Tea very kindly gave us a tea tour yesterday, and it was the most awesome experience. So we got to see the most beautiful tea fields, taste delicious teas, and when you were just talking about the kind of teas that you enjoy, the first thing that popped into my head was, the first tea we had in a tea field yesterday was very round, very roasted, very comforting.
Very smooth.
That was super smooth and so dark as well. Yeah. It was a really tasty tea.
Yeah.
And that was a hojicha, but it was a winter harvest, right?
Winter harvest, yes. So I actually met that farmer. I wish I could.
Tea smells incredible.
Describe George's
I'm sorry,
face.
I just interrupted you. But
I wish I could.
Oh my goodness!
When it was at the tea house, it's Me Tea Studio in Prague. When I was there, Christoph, he knows me very well and my taste. So when I was there and I was asking, "What do you have?" He's like, "I know what you want." And he got me this one. And so he knows me very well.
I think that's one of the really fun things about tea as well, that, it connects people. But when you have friendships through tea and you get to know the preferences of the other people, it's really you're thinking of other people when you're drinking tea anyway. You think, actually, I know somebody who would really enjoy this.
Yeah.
And as a tea person as well, I tend to buy quite a lot of tea. I have, my tea budget tends to be quite large because it's also my job. I need to taste a lot of teas to know what's going on out there year to year. But inevitably I end up with a little bit too much. So, I like to break up into smaller amounts, and I'll send off to family and friends and send them teas to try, or gift them when I see them, so I can, not only share the teas that I've been enjoying, but educate their tongues in the stuff that's going on recently too. So
yeah,
I think it's fun. It's a fun game. I'm gonna have a little taste of this because I can't not taste it anymore. Wow, that's so soft.
It's amazing, isn't it? It was quite funny. Like I got one sample for free, and then I bought a couple extra, obviously. And I gifted one to a friend here who has a tea shop. And she brewed it while we were there. And she brewed it extremely long. And I was just watching it. And I didn't want to say anything because it was my gift to her, so she could decide how to brew it. And she adored it. And for me, the tea was killed.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
I like strong tea, but that was too strong.
That pushed it a little far for you.
Yes.
This is really tasty. This is really delicious. I was thinking, I just tasted it. I was thinking there's definitely a lot of vanilla notes going on there. Oh, tea's amazing.
Like tropical fruit, vanilla. Yeah.
Some good stuff.
Some chocolate, maybe.
Do you want me to put the cup on the tray, or
just put it in front of you and I'll refill?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The roasted hojicha you mentioned that I served during the tour. Usually during the tour we do a cold brew when we go out to the tea fields, but in winter now it's so cold. So for the last few tours, we decided to do a hot brew. So that winter hojicha is a unique creation by farmer Tozaka, the smallest farmer in this region. I actually met him, was it 5 years ago, maybe, at a craft market in the Netherlands. And I already knew that I was possibly going to move here. This was 2020, early 2020, so exactly 5 years ago. And the other tea farmer he was traveling with, I had already met when I was here as a tourist, but Tozaka I met for the first time. And when we sat down, because he was at a Japanese craft market, not everyone visiting was a tea lover. So when he noticed that me and my friend were tea lovers, he got this sparkle in his eye, and he pulled up some bags from under the table. He's like, by the way, I'm experimenting with some oolong tea. Would you like to try some? And I remembered then, when I move there, I have to become friends with this guy because he's just such a tea nerd himself. He wants to experiment and try teas, and so
I didn't know you'd known him for that long. I thought it was a discovery when you arrived here, when you came in 2023.
Well, I didn't know how good his teas would be when I arrived here. That the hojicha I did not have when I met him in the Netherlands, but
it was really good, and I really enjoyed the hojicha, and it was really interesting to. We were literally standing next to the tea field
where it was made,
the tea was harvested from.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun experience. And to be drinking it and be talking about tea right next to that tea field. And then on top of that, the other thing that I noticed that kind of set that tea field apart from the others was that it had been trimmed, not with a ride-on machine, but with a handheld machine.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's trying to do a little bit more focus on getting the harvest exactly right for the height of each bush, rather than having a ride-on machine that sets a setting and regardless of the growth of the leaf through the row, just harvest everything at a set level.
Most of the farmers in this region do harvest with the Johyo, so the ride-on combine harvester. So Tozaka is the smallest farmer in this region. He has about 2 hectares of tea. He could maybe invest in one, but he doesn't want to.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, the main reason maybe that he told me is he thinks it would be dreadfully boring to ride alone on a harvester. For him, like, tea is also very much about connecting with people. He's very good at rallying people to help him. He's got his own community around him, a lot of creative people, a lot of artsy, creative makers. And so for him, it's like, I want to talk to people when I'm harvesting. I don't want to sit alone. Like, that would kill all that I like about tea. So, yeah.
So that's the focus point, the connection.
Maybe it's
people.
Also the controlling, but I think it's also just maybe also not having the funds to invest in the combine harvester.
Do you know how much they cost? I always wondered. They are
immensely expensive. I might be able to look it up, but in the tea diary.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can put it on the blog page for the podcast afterwards for people to see.
If anyone wants to buy one.
If anyone wants to purchase a tea combine harvester.
For your home garden.
It'd be pretty cool, though. Be pretty cool. Wow, that was particularly special, and that tea popped into my head when you were talking about the teas that you really enjoy. But I guess this is in the same line of topics as well. But this is a bit of a difficult question for you, and there's kind of 3 parts to it.
Okay.
What is your favorite tea? Where do you drink it? And who are you with? Favorite tea, where do you drink it? Who are you with?
I often say my favorite tea is my next tea.
Okay.
Because you never know what's out there, which encounter is going to come, and the excitement of sharing tea with people and you don't yet know who you're going to be sharing your next cup of tea with.
Yeah.
That's part of the tea adventure and the fun of it. So I think I've already answered what teas I like to go towards. For me, knowing who is behind the tea makes the tea tastier. Knowing the story and the effort behind it. I had the same with music as well. If I knew the artist behind it, it would
a bit more.
It means more. It has more value. Even if there's rough edges to it, I appreciate the rough efforts because I know the story. I think that story behind it is very important. So you said
favorite tea. So favorite tea is the next tea. But then where do you drink it? And who are you with?
Yeah, that's part of the question, right? Put myself in a corner here.
You did, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to get yourself out of this one.
Oh, my goodness. So my favorite tea, my next tea, who am I drinking it with? I've met the most amazing people through tea. I'm this crazy person who will randomly send people who I notice online or in my neighborhood. Hi, I see you in the neighborhood. Do you want to come to my house and drink tea? I've done that with so many people. I've even had a meetup with someone who's traveling across the world, and I just sent them a message, and then we met up outside of my work, in my work from tea break in Amsterdam train station, just to sit down and have tea, and then I went on with my work again. So yeah, who knows? Some stranger who you connect with for a while and maybe keep connecting with.
And I guess the place will be wherever it will be.
Wherever. That you can have tea in the most amazing places.
I mean, you had tea in Petra in Jordan, and that was an interesting person you met. I guess you never thought you'd ever be having a cup of tea with a guy with an air-conditioned donkey. I meant to bring that up. How does that work? An air-conditioned donkey.
You put it as a perk for the camels. It's like you have a air-conditioned ride, you're out in the free air, so that's
Oh.
It's just.
I was there picturing
some
kind of fan system.
No.
Is that...
I'm sorry.
Well, then I thought, okay, well maybe there's a room on the back of the donkey, and you're sitting in the room. I thought that's a bit harsh for the donkey. Okay, well, it's a bit clearer now.
Sorry.
No. What, air-conditioned donkey? I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Anyway. Okay.
That was just a local joke.
Well, it went straight over my head.
I am more of an indoor tea drinking person, usually. I think at some point in the Netherlands, I really missed, I felt there wasn't enough community connection. There's a lot of people who you meet at tea events and you're like, oh, we should meet up, and they never really like happen much. So I started, before I came to Japan, I started like a tea friends, a community thing once a month in my home and welcome people there. And for before I started, I made it way too complicated. I'm like, oh, we could do like public outdoor brewing, but then we need to be near to a public toilet because, you're drinking tea and you need to have access to hot water. And how do you do that? And I think, having access to a water source where you're not limited to just one thermos of tea, where you can keep brewing, and a toilet. It's very important. So where to meet in a cozy indoor space where you can just focus on the flavor of the tea.
Okay.
And the company.
Okay, so to recap then, favorite tea is your next tea.
Yeah.
Where do you drink it is a cozy indoor space.
Yeah.
And you're with interesting strangers.
Yeah, and you just talk about life.
That's lovely, isn't it? I think everybody could do with a bit more of that.
Yeah. Come
Fantastic.
join me.
Yeah, well, is that an open invitation to any listener?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I mean, they might know where to find you because Ikidoki is on the map.
Come knock on the door.
That'd be lovely. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'll knock on the door next time. I just won't tell you I'm coming. I'll just be like, knock, knock, knock. You got time for a cup of tea? Do you find that you're a tea house person? Do you particularly like tea houses? Or do you find them a bit intimidating? Or how do you feel about tea houses? Because I think they could be quite cozy, a nice place to congregate.
I think every tea house carries its own energy. So it's hard to say, like, in general, each tea house. There's a lot of tea houses I really, really love. The one I just mentioned in Prague, I'd almost just moved to the city just so I could sit there because it's this very cozy space, and because it's one big shared table, it's very easy to connect with people. I've made some friends just by sitting down and then sharing tea with the person next to you and sharing stories. So that kind of space, it's very open and welcoming. What the people do to create that space and allow those meetings is absolutely phenomenal. Another tea house very dear to my heart is Postcard Teas in London, where I almost feel they are part of my tea family. And so, tea houses can play a really important role like that. I think it's just finding one that matches with what you like and the people you, energize with. I don't like that expression, but I can't find something better right now.
I mean, the word that jumps to mind is vibe.
Yeah,
vibe with, but I don't particularly want to say that. But
I kind of want to move my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, find the right people to vibe with. There's so many different energies and different tea houses. I'm sure there's something for someone. And they can be really incredible community spaces to meet people and, share the passion of tea. So I'm very much in favor of tea houses, I suppose, in general. But it's, differs what they bring. Yeah.
There was this tea house I went to in Pua City.
Wow.
And it was a pretty fancy place because the table where you could sit, one of the tables you could sit down, but the main table was just the most enormous, I kid you not, 10 to 12 meters long, wooden table, about 3 meters wide. This thing was enormous.
3 meters wide?
It was enormous. How
big was the tea house?
It wasn't that big. It was more like a tea club, like not in a subscription service meaning, but more in like a London, your London club, but not like a nightclub, but like a gentleman's club.
Okay.
Like where you pay to become a member of the club, and you have to keep up your monthly payment, and if you're not a member of the club, you can't come in. But it wasn't. There was no thing like that, but it kind of felt like that in a way. And the way they made it feel like that was by storing people's tea for them. So either it was purchased from the tea house, or it was your own tea you bought in, whilst, you know, you also owned other teas from the tea house, and they would store it for you.
Wow.
In the right storage settings, which for pu'er is just as it is, because it's ideal for storing pu'er.
Yeah.
But it would just be stored there, and you could come into the tea house whenever you wanted, sit down, and you had water, you had teaware provided, and you just enjoy a cup of tea. And you could come and drink tea with the owner of the tea house, and if they weren't there, then one of the people that are working there. But it was super relaxed, but a beautiful way to enjoy tea.
Wow.
And I'm not the biggest fan of like a really big room for you to feel quite small in to brew a cup of tea. That feels a bit strange. I'd prefer cozier rooms as well, but the way it was done with a lot of the things you touched were wooden. So it had a more welcoming feel. Even though it was quite a big scale, it was very welcoming. And I really enjoyed that a lot. And when you go to there was like a bar section where, you know, you could pay. They also give you hot water and a few other things as well. They were also like doing a little bit of coffee, but it was pu'er coffee. And so they had a range of products that were to do with coffee in the local area too. So they were like supporting other farms and small farms there. And to be honest, this tea house was not going to be making money. The amount of people I saw there I saw one customer in the 2 days and 6 hours I spent in that tea house. But this was an addition to the tea house owner's wholesale business. So this was a place for the tea house owner to welcome guests, to welcome returning retail customers, and to have a nice place to display their teas.
Wow.
So it served that purpose. So in its own right, I don't think it was making money. But I think as a facility to welcome people to, I think it did the job very nicely. And I was thinking, you know, perhaps you might enjoy a tea house ownership at some point, to have that community space, to bring the people together, to welcome them and to enjoy cups of tea. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe. At some point in the future.
Well,
like a co-ownership where you can still go off and travel and visit. You're not bound to one place. It's very hard to survive like financially with a tea house. So, you know, a wealthy Chinese investor maybe.
Well, I mean, they could
who's
provide
paying
the tea
for just promoting culture of tea and teaism.
Well, you know, there's all sorts of ways to make dreams come true.
Yeah.
And if you fancied a tea cafe at some point, I'm sure you can find a way to make it work that's good for you and right for the other people involved as well.
And it's interesting. I've said for a while that I still feel I'm in my, like, I kind of see my tea, like, learning as, I see myself as a sponge.
Okay.
And I feel I'm still in the absorbing state.
Okay.
So maybe I'll forever be in the absorbing state. But at some point, I feel like maybe I will cross over into where I'm like going to let go or share what I've absorbed. Someone will ring me and
someone ring me out of all the knowledge I've gained.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that sounds a bit sad.
No.
I hope it's in a positive way.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have said that having known you, because whenever we talk, you always provide so much knowledge and share your experiences so much. I've never thought of you as someone who's like absorbing all the time and not like, you know, releasing knowledge to other people.
Yeah.
So,
or maybe a sponge that doesn't hold on like onto the water like very hard, but I still feel. Well, maybe that's the problem with tea, that you always feel like you don't, like, the more you learn, the more you feel you don't know anything. Just keep being like, oh, I want to learn this, and then you haven't like focused on a certain topic for a while, and it kind of fades. It's like, oh, how did that work again? Or, yeah, you have to re-dig into it.
I think for me, when I've experienced that, one of the ways to kind of make myself feel a bit better about things is by having the output. So I think you're right in like output is a really important way in which to be able to, confirm your own knowledge, but also share with others. And it's a really enjoyable thing to do that. So teaching is a great outlet for that feeling. And through Obubu, I've been able to do that quite a lot because we have lots of people to teach. And I want to be able to do a bit more of that this coming year. And it's something that is really rewarding, and to be able to share that knowledge. And sometimes you surprise yourself because actually you know a lot more than you think you do, and you remember a lot more than you think you do. And you find the answers from nowhere, it seems, when people ask questions. And yesterday's tour, like, you had so many things to share, and it was really cool to see and to learn about all of the teas from a different perspective as well, because I've never been to this part of the world. Like, I'm a complete newbie to all of these types of tea and how it all relates. And, I've got to be honest, until recently, it was actually only like a couple of weeks ago that I found out that Tamriokocha is like an overarching category of like pan-fired and steamed teas, not just the steamed version.
Yeah.
So that super surprised me. So it's it's really interesting to continue learning more about tea. So I think your output with things like the tour, I think, are going to help you, and the more people that come and start congregating here, it's going to be good fun, and you're going to have a lot more output happening too.
It's one of my favorite things to have the tea tour and have people visit. Sometimes I love having the tea nerds come in with all the detailed questions, but sometimes it's just amazing to take someone to the very first tea field ever, and you open up this whole world for them that they've never even considered. So sometimes people come together and it's, one partner who's like really the tea nerd, but then you convince the other part where they're like, oh, this is actually all super interesting. And then you're like, yes, I did it.
Well, yesterday we kind of had that with Professor Lee's son, Christian.
Yes.
Like, he was a coffee guy.
Yeah.
But then by the end of it, he was like, oh, I want a chasen. Maybe Lee mentioned she'd probably gifted him one before, but he was like re-enthused and wanted some delicious tea. So it was it was good.
And he went home with 2 hojicha teas today. So.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. His delicious teas.
Yes.
So I was thinking perhaps maybe we should take a quick time out.
That sounds
maybe
good.
we can brew another tea as well.
Sounds even better.
Does that sound? Okay. So we're going to jump into some other questions that are not directly tea related. We're going to ask a few other questions as well. So, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be an investment of money, time, energy, anything like that. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made?
My first thought initially is friends. And then immediately my mind goes, yeah, but you're not very well at keeping in touch with everyone. I have, my WhatsApp has like permanently 30 like messages unread, because I read them and then I put them back on unread and I'll be like, I'll reply later to that. So it's a perpetual string of messages that need my attention. But yeah, I think friendships is the best investment. Experiencing time with people. And last month I had a Japanese friend visit me, and I've known her for 20 years. So I did an exchange year in Leeds, England in 2004, 2005. She was one of my friends I made there, and she was one of the reasons I also considered coming to Japan. So it was really amazing to have her husband and her kid come down here and see what I'm doing. And to have all that history between us. It's really very special, and I think it makes life worth living, right?
Oh, that's a lovely answer.
Thank you.
And we've actually had no one say friends yet.
No?
So I think that's a delightful answer, and everyone else who I've interviewed before, they will feel bad.
That's the aim.
Nailed it. Okay, right. We're going to jump back to an easy tea-related question, or maybe hard, I'm not sure. Tea-related question. What tea-related purchase of $100, euros, pounds, or maybe like 16,000 yen, or less, have you most enjoyed in the last 6 months or in recent memory?
Last 6 months. Actually, maybe the cups we're drinking from right now. So we are drinking from cups that are made. So it's a kiln in Hoshinomura, a small village just outside of Yame, Fukuoka. Yame is famous for gyokuro, and I have a tea farmer friend in Hoshinomura. Hoshinomura means the village of stars. It's a very charming name.
Wow.
And it's actually similar to Wazuka on the list of 100 prettiest villages in Japan. So I traveled around Japan in 2018, and the amazing things that social media brings is it allows you to connect with farmers. I was at a homestay, tea-related homestay in Yame, like a bit on the outskirts, and I posted about it while I moved down towards Kagoshima. And one of the farmers who spoke English saw my post randomly. I didn't know this farmer, and he reached out and said, "Hi, I see you in the neighborhood. You want to come by?" So like a Japanese me, randomly reaching out to people who are in the neighborhood. And because I was looping back in my travels up north again to Kyushu and towards Yame, I was like, yes, I'd love to come and visit. So I spent a whole day with him. He actually arranged for me to stay at a guest house of his friends, and then we had a second day together as well. So, and he introduced me to this potter. So it's Gentagama kiln. And it's a guy who really prepares his own clay. It's very mineral rich. It has this beautiful metallic sheen on the outside, kind of rustic look to it. And I bought one cup because, pottery. I like buying, pottery, just one thing somewhere. So I have, each piece has a story to it, and I don't have this huge collection. And I've enjoyed that cup for a good number of years and has some special memories connected with it. And then when I moved here last year, I finally went back to visit this farmer, and he took us again to the kiln, and he told me the guy is in his 80s, he's in the hospital, he's very sick, he's not going to produce anything anymore. So I was like, I need more of those cups. And they were still there, similar to the one I bought 6 years ago. So I bought a set of 4 cups with a guy one to match with a pitcher. And so, the farmer was like, are you sure you want to spend that much? I'm like, yes, I'm sure.
It means a lot to you.
Yes.
Okay. So that will be your choice. I mean, it's a beautiful set. I mean, is this the...
Yep, matching. When you look into it, the light that falls into it makes it kind of shimmer.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's beautiful. This is the Yuzamashi.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And I think the tea that's in it as well really helps it shine as well. Yeah.
I've noticed recently that where previously I would just buy one cup, one something somewhere, I'm now much more, because I'm also hosting more people, I want more sets. So I'm trying to get at least 4 or 5 cups similar so that I can serve a similar style. Before I was very fine with having an eclectic mix of anything, but I'm starting to notice I have more that I want. I want something matching.
A set of everything all together.
Yeah.
For me, it tends to be I like a set of cups.
Yeah.
But for each teapot, I don't mind like having it different from the cups. That doesn't matter to me.
For me, that's fine.
Matching
as well.
cups is nice.
The cups is the thing.
Yeah. And then having the teapots from different places and stuff. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Like my OCD doesn't get that far.
I'm on the same level. Yeah.
But these are beautiful. I like how the glaze crackles as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. And so if people wanted to find out more information about this place, there's no other way other than going there, I guess, and seeing if there's anything left.
Come very fast, because a lot has been sold. Like shops that stock his teaware, they've been buying a lot of his stuff because they realize that it's running out. He's basically like, there's very little chance that he's going to be producing anything new.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, sad story, but beautiful teaware that will be there for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah.
I think pottery plays such an important part of the tea enjoying experience, and
absolutely.
there are so many people that contribute to give a lot of themselves into the tea industry to help other people find enjoyment into each and every cup of tea that they're drinking.
It's just tea reaches so many other disciplines and crafts, connects all of that together.
This is why we love tea.
Yes.
And it's confusing when other people don't like tea.
I honestly think every person can find something to relate to on tea. Even if they don't like the flavor, the history is interesting, or the agriculture, or the cultural aspect. Or I think anyone can find something interesting to relate to tea.
My tea's great. You struggle if you sit down and talk with people about tea, even if they don't like tea at the beginning or they say they don't. By the end of it, there's something that you're enjoying talking about together. So, tea is just magical. Okay, right. Let's jump on to something different. This is not necessarily tea related, but how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I have a ready answer for this. Do you have some examples of things other people have mentioned?
Favorite failure, or perhaps I can try and speak to one of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So a favorite failure of mine, for example, I didn't graduate from university, and that meant, because I took some time out from university in my second year, because I had mental health problems at that time, I decided to, take some time out and do some other stuff. And that eventually led me down the route, which, put me in Japan. And it's not that I ever imagined coming to Japan, but it meant that I was able to, find a different path in life. Like, I think if I continued down that path, I'd be in a very different place to the place I am today. So in some ways, it's definitely a failure. But without that failure, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so whether I liked it or not, would I do it again? I'm not sure. But if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I think that's probably my biggest favorite failure.
Before you mentioned your university, I was like, oh, maybe because I did my bachelor's degrees and then never ever did anything with it. I mean, I can appreciate a nice rock on the ground. I studied geology, but I never did anything with it. So, like, academically speaking, it's a bit of a failure. I went into working at organic food stores. I did 2 years of making organic soap production, and it seems maybe a little bit loose, but it's all connected to like craft and being between producer and consumer. That's what I find really interesting, being that bridge. And that's also currently what I really like in tea, being that connector between the producer and the consumer and giving the feedback both ways. If I'd pursued geology, it probably wouldn't have landed there. So in that sense, it's a similar kind of academic failure. I remember one of my parents' friends, she said, yeah, it's always interesting to follow your, like, where you're going, because it's so unexpected. Like, I never know where you'll end up. that in a way feels like a success.
I think you're living an interesting life. No?
Yeah, right? It's all about the experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's really important to have adventures in life and to always be doing some interesting, new and different stuff.
Yeah.
My grandma always used to say, you always have an adventure with a Guttridge. And that is something which, I like to keep to. And I really hope that other people feel like, okay, they also have an adventure with a Guttridge as well. And there's lots of times where, like, yes, I could maybe plan a trip a little bit better, but part of, I think, having a nice adventure is the amazing things that happen when you just follow what's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
You never know where that alleyway is going to lead to this beautiful view down by the sea.
Yeah.
Or you suddenly happen upon...
Or today, ending up on a military...
Or for you, ending up on a military base today. Can you say that normally? No. You went in search of beautiful tea fields and you found a military base.
Chasing nice tea pictures of snowy tea fields and then ending up at a sign like, don't go further.
And you would never have done that if you were, like, not happy to follow adventures, right?
Right? Yeah.
So it's, I think it's really like a core belief, whether it's tea related or not, having an adventurous and fun-filled life is important.
When I plan trips, I like to keep some space open now for anything that might occur, spontaneous invites.
Yeah.
I ended up joining visiting a cult in Korea my very first day.
Okay. How did that happen?
I was approached by two students on the street at the university quarters. Apparently this is their regular spot for getting foreigners to come and join, and they said, yeah, we're part of a association, the student association that celebrates traditional Korean culture, and we're having a special traditional ceremony. Would you like to join to watch? I'm like, yeah, sure. I have nothing planned. So I traveled with them halfway across the city. 3 changes with them underground. Just randomly followed them. I had a very interesting experience with them, and I didn't just watch. I had to wear a hanbok traditional. I'm like, why does the student association have 400 hanboks? Traditional dresses.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't just watching, I had to participate. I think if someone could have filmed that, it would have been absolutely hilarious, because I was wearing the hanbok and with these socks that kept filling off, and I had to do all the kowtowing, the bowing and the down and up and down and on your knees and bow, and it was a workout. But every time I stood up, I stood on the hem of my hanbok.
Oh,
and
gosh.
I wasn't allowed to keep my glasses on because it was disrespectful for the ancestors. So I couldn't see absolutely anything. I'm practically blind without them. It was just me bumbling along through that ceremony.
My goodness.
Hilarious. And then they asked for a donation at the end, and I happily did so.
Course.
And only when I arrived back home, well, at the ceremony, they're like, don't share this experience with anyone because it will water down the significance. So the first thing I did when I arrived to the hostel staff, I said, oh, I had an interesting experience. And then I told them, they're like, oh yeah, you got scammed. And I'm like, well, at least it was an interesting scam.
Yes, at least I got a good story out of it.
Exactly.
Dear me.
Yeah. The cult started 3 months later.
Oh.
Because I told them I was going to go for an internship.
Okay.
At Obubu Tea Farm. And that I would be in Korea for 1.5 months after that to travel through Korea. I heard nothing. They had my number to verify that I got home safe. I didn't hear anything from them during my internship. So for 3 months. My first week back in Korea, I got a message. Hi, how are you? And I'm like, block number, delete. I don't want anything to do with this. This is where the cult part starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean...
this is just saying yes to a random stranger on the street.
Well, and this time there was no tea involved. Or was there tea involved?
There was tea. Yeah, there was tea involved. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, traditional.
Always have an adventure with tea. Dear me.
So yeah, live your adventures.
I think it's
Have
important.
some good stories to tell.
I think it's an important feature of life to have some nice adventures and good stories to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that's a particularly good one.
Thank you.
So, excellent.
I am happy I got warned when I went to Shanghai to not do that, because you have like the very quite bad tea scams. They get forced to pay a lot of money and have some nasty experiences. Don't want to do that. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Moving swiftly on. I've got another non-tea. Well, it could be tea related, but probably non-tea related question for you. What is an unusual habit or strange thing that you enjoy?
Something very weird popped up in my head.
Let's say it. Go for it.
Ever since I'm a baby, I have this thing that I do to kind of, I think, some soothing feeling. And it's basically to run fabric between my fingers. This is very soothing feeling. So I've had that ever since a baby. My mum said even when I was lying in the cot.
Yeah.
I would do that between my toes or between my fingers.
Wow.
I remember in primary school, I would look at the crisp hem of my friend's dress and I'd be like, I want to run that between my fingers. I didn't, but I remember the feeling like, oh, that looks good.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, very nice. Okay, excellent. Let's jump back to a tea question. How often are you drinking tea per day? And what is your most regularly drunk tea?
I kind of drink a different tea each time. I have so much tea at home. So many generous friends who give me tea. Then, of course, I'm working with tea, so I have endless samples of tea. Then I also have to taste and keep tasting the teas we sell. So there's endless amounts of tea. So I'm not often drinking the same tea like day by day, like throughout the week. I'm kind of, even before I started working here, when I drank tea at home in the Netherlands, it would kind of be a different continent, different type of tea each time I drink tea. So not much consistency to it. That being said, there are days when I don't drink any tea.
Really?
Well, I just kind of forget about drinking tea and I just drink water. By the end of the day, I'm like, I didn't drink tea today.
Do you not get any headaches?
No. Well,
really?
I have headaches anyways.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't feel like tea triggers or like dissolves them. Or, yeah, I don't feel they're necessarily related. But
I can't do a day. I can't do a day without tea without getting a headache.
Yeah.
And not only that, but without green tea specifically in the morning. Like I drink a cup of green tea every morning, a pot. And I can't, if I don't have that, then I don't feel quite right. Something's not quite right. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm happy to hear that you don't get headaches from tea withdrawal. That's a positive thing.
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
And I'm a bit insensitive, like to caffeine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes start drinking like a sheng pour at midnight.
Really? And you don't have any problems with going to sleep?
No, nothing.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good. I wish I could do that. As I've like over the last 5 years, I found that I got more and more sensitive to caffeine. So I need to be a little bit careful. Like I shouldn't drink too much matcha before bed. You know, I usually, if I'm doing tea ceremony lessons, then you're drinking matcha into like 9-10 p.m.
Yep.
That's just normal because you're doing it after work. But if I do that, I know I'm very awake, which is good for the drive home, not great for sleep.
Yeah.
So for me, I find that a bit tricky. But other people have no problems. Big bowl of matcha, straight to sleep like a log. Unfortunately, I can't do that. But you know, it's a good talent to have. So congratulations.
I hope it stays for a bit.
Okay, so when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have temporarily lost your focus, what do you do?
I don't think I have one particular strategy. I go into like stick my head in the ground mode. do something that distracts me, and then later on be agitated that I haven't done what I think I should have been doing.
And then go and do
Maybe.
Yeah. No, I know that feeling.
I often have like a dip in the afternoon, and then come evening, I'm like, oh, what did I even do today? Like, even if I've done lots of things, I just feel like I need to do more. And then 10 p.m., like, okay, I need to start working. I need to start working today, even though I've been working, but I've just felt unfocused during the afternoon.
I do know what you mean. There is kind of a clarity that comes towards the end of the evening where kind of all the clouds have disappeared and you can think clearly.
It's for me like when the world quiets down.
Right.
And there's not a lot of stuff happening where I feel I can focus better.
Yeah.
So like 10, 11, 12, 1 a.m. is like, I can have better focus.
Okay.
But I'm a bit of a night owl, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I totally get that, especially after lunch. After lunch, there's always a bit of a lull.
Yeah.
And always get a little bit drowsy. So I tend to try and have either a cup of coffee or a very strong matcha after lunch to kind of beat the afternoon snooze. And, not get too sleepy while I'm working. And that kind of carries me through. But definitely around 10 p.m., there's a clarity that comes in and you're like, right, it's go time.
Let's go down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have another question for you. And this is for people that are getting into tea. So what advice would you give somebody who's just getting into tea but is unsure where to find good information and about tea and how to approach understanding what tea options are available?
I don't think there's a one clear-cut answer that is good for everyone. Like I've met people who are very good at just learning by themselves, just digging into things online, going super deep that way. For me, I benefited from having some basic tea information taught to me. So I took Tea Academy in the Netherlands and I went to the UK Tea Academy because I just wanted to have it in a different way. And also I feel I absorb, even though I'm Dutch, I grew up in different countries, and I sometimes feel I absorb information better if it's in English. So I wanted to have an English version as well, very similar in what they offered. But that kind of gave me a base, and what it also did is it gave me a network, especially the Dutch Tea Academy. A lot of my classmates are still very good friends. I've done a lot of tea travel across the world with a couple of them. So if you're looking for some community, like a tea academy could be something. Like what I started at home, like in Utrecht, the Tea Friends, which was open for anyone at all interested in sharing tea. I did it 7 months before I came to Japan. And in the end, I think the last 2 or 3 times, a couple of guys drove over from Germany.
Wow.
And back because they were missing tea community so much. They didn't have anything in their neighborhood. So I think like if you're able to find some kind of tea community effort, there's different projects across. It's a friend in Chicago that does a lot of tea community things as well. So it would be great to see if you can find something like that, because I think drinking with people in person is probably the most valuable.
Yeah. So finding a tea community is probably the best foot forward and go from there. Did you find that you had a lot of people who through the tea communities were like teachers for you almost?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I still wish I had more teachers on specific topics, especially. I would be like, I'd love to have a teacher on hand because, for instance, during the pandemic, I took a course, an absolutely amazing course on Chinese tea, Eastern Leaves Tea Academy. And, but it's like, I absolutely love doing that. I learned incredibly much, but I'm almost like, okay, I just want to be there in person with them.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing, especially like a deep dive course where you're talking about, you want to study teas to see what like the defects in teas, that for me just didn't translate online. Like I have to be in someone's presence where they tell me, okay, this note that you feel, and then they can see like, are you getting that?
Yeah.
That means this and that means that. And I think that is really invaluable.
Yeah. there is a level of non-verbal communication that's missing when you're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Through the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it's super valuable that so many resources are now available.
Yeah.
That before weren't ever going to be available. Like the pandemic helped to push that online. Yeah.
For sure. But you're quite right in saying that there's like a level of stuff that you can't quite get when you're doing stuff online that is very different when you're doing it in person.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, and like even this podcast, like I had to re-record one because there was an audio issue for one of them, and we had to do that online because we're based in different countries. But I'd really like to be able to do this podcast in person, because we couldn't have the same interaction and the same moment if we're not in the same room together, drinking the same tea and connecting with that other person. This is the magic of tea that's been happening for like 7,000 years, where people get together and they have a cup of tea and connect in that way. Like it's almost a part of our DNA. But this human connection is so valuable, and you don't have that same connection over the internet. Like it's a really useful tool and has spread a lot of knowledge very widely and very cheaply, but it's not the same.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more questions. What are some problems you see in the tea industry right now? And if you could change one thing, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I mean, there are definitely problems in the tea industry, but I think a lot of it is just basic human nature. People wanting to, cut corners, either just because they want to make a better living wage, or they want to, get rich fast, or things are just too difficult. So, things like fraud, tampering with teas, adding, flavors that shouldn't be there and pretending they aren't there, or, claiming teas are from a certain origin where they aren't. But it's very much human nature. Can you change human nature? We can be frustrated with it. You can, try to eradicate them. But I think even if you eradicate all of those problems now, they will pop up again. Yeah. And in some ways, the stories of fraud, of adulteration of tea, that they are connected with tea for centuries. That, it's also kind of interesting. Looking at how, tea was super expensive in Europe, and how the adulteration, I think I told you yesterday during the tour, in the UK, they used to, knock on the back doors, get the kitchen maid to give them the leftover brewed leaves, then they would dry them, mix them with other random twigs and leaves, and then color them with sheep's dung.
Delicious.
And then resell them. Oof. And apparently the Dutch were very good at adulterations as well. And then there's with Chinese with the toxic, what is it, the powder?
Like the copper oxide or something, wasn't it? It was something to turn them.
No, was it arsenic? No, what was it? The whole like green craze in Europe as well.
Yeah.
Apparently when Japan opened up, they had some experts of coloring from China.
They did,
come in to come and teach the craft of coloring the green tea, because with the shipping time, the tea didn't look as vibrant as the start. So,
there's a really nice book called Green Tea with Milk.
I haven't read it. It's good.
I'm going to be honest, it's a bit dry, but
it needs some milk.
I think it needs a bit more tea. But there's a lot of information about that kind of period of time and how things were working with exports to the US.
Yeah.
And the trends that were happening around that time as well, including what was happening in Japan and with the coloring and all of that stuff. So that period of history is covered quite nicely by that book.
Great.
So I do recommend it.
I love to dig into that.
It's a good read.
They are interesting stories. But then we have our current day, our tea charlatans, and
sure.
And it's also a bit of hot gossip, a bit of the drama. Of course, you don't want it to be there, but I don't think you can necessarily eradicate
No.
All of it. I don't know if there's necessarily, of course, one thing in particular I want to focus on. I think it's just, it would be great if people can connect with the stories of the producers. Well, you know, who has produced your tea. I think there is a trend where people are more interested in the stories of crafts and like food and things in general. I think that's a really good trend. So if we can continue that, I think it's a good path.
Well, this is partly what I want to do, is I want to try and highlight, you know, people that are doing great things with tea, and to be able to be a place where people can find more information about tea and find some really interesting people that are working with tea and kind of highlight what they're working on. So I'm hoping that People of Tea can be a place that people can find that kind of information from. So it's kind of why I wanted to talk to you today as well, so that people can get to know you and then find out about more of the projects that you're working on as well.
I sometimes call myself a story hunter.
Oh, yeah?
Because I'm here to source teas and to find the stories of the farmers and to retell them. So I'm a bit, of course, like searching for teas as well, but a bit of story hunter. And I think with your podcast, kind of similar
type of thing, for sure. But you know, I think you can then see as much as I can. There are these amazing people everywhere in the tea industry, not just in Japan, but anywhere you go. Tea people are fascinating.
Absolutely.
And they all have their own stories. They all have their own thoughts about what's going on in the tea industry, and the common thing that brings us all together is that we all enjoy tea.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. It kind of unifies us all, no matter, you know, what part of the world you're from. I think tea brings you all together.
The diversity. Yeah.
Diversity. That was very nice. Smooth.
That was
Got
not intentional. It wasn't intentional.
Well,
I like word jokes, but that one wasn't intentional.
Well, it was very good. Okay. Last question. It's a really tricky one. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting the message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say and why? It can be a few words or a paragraph. It's up to you.
I'm not sure. I'd probably have to ponder on that for a while. But my initial thought was, be more kind, be gentle, be patient. I think we're all very rigid. I feel like society is very fragile right now. Everyone's kind of hitting their breaking point. So if we can try and dig into more understanding for everyone, I think that would be great.
That's lovely. No, I mean, resonates with me.
and do that over a cup of tea.
Yeah. And more specifically, over a cup of Hikashi Sonaki Tamni Okucha.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you were telling some of the most awesome stories yesterday about the tea farmers from this area, you know, coming together.
I think each farmer has a story to tell. You just have to find it. Like I found some where the story is very obvious and very, you know, easy to extract. Yeah.
But finding the way to kind of share that with everyone. Is tricky.
Sometimes the deepest conversations I have is with a complete stranger, where there's no preconceptions, no judgment.
Yeah.
And you just share things.
Yeah.
Especially over a cup of tea. Because often when I share tea with people, I've met a lot of strangers over a cup of tea, you know, gone out to meet tea people to have tea together, but we're not actually talking much about tea at all. It's all about life and travel and culture and, you know, topics that also fascinate me. But it's not necessarily about the tea, but I find that tea eases that conversation.
I mean, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. And I'm really, really excited to share this with everyone. And so that they get to know a bit about you, a bit about Ikidoki, and some of the amazing stuff that's going on around here. And if people want to find you, what would be the best way for them to find you?
The best, I am most active on the Ikidoki Instagram, which I run.
Mm-hmm.
So that is Ikidoki Tea handle. I think that's probably the best way.
Best place to find you.
Or join the newsletter, which I try to get out monthly for Ikidoki. and keep your eye out for when I'm traveling Europe or maybe in the future other places, because it would be best to say hi in person to people.
Of course, over a cup of tea.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, George.
Arigato. Bye-bye.